working, y'all. Check 1, 2. Immediately come to the chat. Immediately, if you're watching, immediately come and tell me if this is working. We've upgraded, and I want to make sure we're doing right. We're doing the thing. All right. It looks like it's working. I just checked it out. Forgive me for being a little bit, kind of wild real quick in the beginning because I have a whole new system going right now. So if you're in the chat, please say what's up. Please say hi. Let me know you hear me, taste me, feel me, smell me. Let me know everything's going good. This is Hip Hop Can Save America. It's your man, Manny Faces. I've upgraded some things. I've done some magic behind the scenes. I don't know if I could tell how many people are watching. So if you're watching, please tell me in the chat that you see me, hear me, feel me, taste me, smell me. That'd be great. Just let me know you're watching. Let me know you hear me. Let me know you see me. It's a new setup, so bear with me if you're watching on the replay or if you're someone that's watched in the past. Like, what is he doing? All right, Hip Hop Can Save America. That's the name of the show. Let me know you hear me. Put it in the chat. We're here. This is the warm-up. A few minutes before we get cooking. But let me know in the chat if you can hear me, if you can see me, if everything is going well. I'd love to know. Please tell me that while we get ready. Please interject in the chat that we're doing well. Oh, yeah. Looks good. It looks better. You see what I did? I upgraded the video. We're upgraded. We're sharper. We're clearer. We're looking good. We're sounding good. I know we're sounding good. Oh, really? Interesting. What does this mean? Just bear with me. I'm trying some new things. So hopefully this is working. Could y'all let me know in the chat? Just say something in the chat real quick. Help me out. Okay. Yeah, we're HD. Now I'm not seeing you in I see the chat here. I see Andrew Wang helping me out. I'm trying to figure out a couple of things. Darren Graves is here. That's what's up. All right, listen, y'all are tuned in and turned up, so it's working. Now, I've got some things behind the scenes that aren't working like I want them to, but don't you worry about me. We're going to figure this out. I definitely see the HD quality is there. We got the air horns. I assume. I don't know if you heard that. But what I'm trying to figure out is a couple of things. Now, in the meantime, don't worry about me. Like I said, y'all can hear me, y'all can see me, y'all can taste me, y'all can feel me. This is Hip Hop Can Save America, the world's most enlightening hip-hop podcast and live stream show in all the land. So I'm not too worried about whether I see things exact. We did set things up differently than we have in the past. So just bear with me for a few minutes while we figure this out. We've got a great show tonight. As you can see on the screen, we have our esteemed colleagues, Dr. Lauren Kelly, Dr. Darren Graves, rocking with us tonight. And we're very excited for that. So what we're going to look to do is kick it with them about hip-hop pedagogy. They have a wonderful new book that they have co-edited together, and that co-editing is taking place. We're going to talk about that book. It's a great tome. I don't have it in front of me. I was supposed to have it in front of me. Doesn't matter. It's all good. Shouts to the people in the chat. Shouts to Andrew Wang, of course. Lauren Kelly, Dr. Lauren Kelly, Dr. Darren Graves, the people who we're going to be talking to. It's amazing. It's like Inception. It's amazing. Listen, I changed some things around. If you're a regular viewer, you'll notice that I look a little crisper. I probably sound good. Say I sound good. And we also have some new things going on. So we have all these kind of like banner situations going on. You could, if I want you to say, hey, donate to the Patreon. It's patreon.com/MannyFaces. You see that on the screen. If I want to say, there's also a newsletter. You can subscribe for free at mannyfaces.substack.com. You see the things on the bottom? See how they change? Look at that. I can do that with buttons. It's very nice. It's very nice. It doesn't matter because tonight is our guest. Oh, yeah. Andrew Wang in the chat says, look what I can do, y'all. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm featuring a comment. Andrew Wang says he has this book. The inimitable, the wonderful, the brilliant, and beautiful and fantastic Lauren Kelly, Teaching with Hip Hop in the 7th to 12th grade classroom, a guide to supporting students' critical development through popular texts. If you're here, it's because you're interested in topics like this. So you tune in. Oh, I dropped it. It's fine. You tune in to the world's most enlightening and informative and educational and empowering hip hop podcast. It's called Hip Hop Could Save America. I'm your guy, Manny Faces. Now that I got you tuned in, I see some things. Yeah. We stepped it up. I didn't tell y'all what I was doing. Hey, Lauren should be able to get her comment up on the screen. There it is. All right. I've got some things happening. I've made something. Look. A little thing just automatically pops up and tells people to subscribe to the show. You can donate and you can support at patreon.com/mannyfaces. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's all good. So anyway, I know it's not fine. I'll pick it up. It's fine. In the meantime, in between time, I don't want to hold things up. It's not about me. I am testing things out, so it could be crazy, but it's looking, sounding good. I love the way it's popping so far. I got the chat thing going. That was important. I had to finagle that. And then now it's time for the world famous intro. And I can do that by pressing a button now. So let's get that intro going. And let's rock the spot in hip hop. Let's go. No, seriously, let's go. Yo, okay. See, this worked. This worked so many times in practice. So anyway, we have a great show tonight. We're gonna talk to Lauren Graves. Isn't that wild? Look, I'm not gonna say anything. We're gonna fix this and we're gonna make it work because I've switched this up. There you go. All right. I'm fixing it right as we speak. I love it because no one's like really watching yet. So it's just my friends. And my friends aren't going to make fun of me. All right. Let's go.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
The thing about hip hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there reach for you.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
So hip hop didn't invent anything, but hip hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces. And this episode is brought to you by
All right, y'all. How do we do? Did y'all hear that? Did you hear the intro? Did you see the intro? Did you feel the intro? Did you taste the intro? I need to know. We're very new tonight. If you've been watching me, you've seen all this stuff happen before, but it's a whole new system. So everything's different. So even though it might look similarly, it's different. So I need to know it sounded good. So y'all help me out. Now, what we do here on Hip Hop Could Save America is we talk about the ways that hip hop music and culture are helping to uplift society and improve humanity. It's hard to put into words. It's hard to explain. Yes, Baby Girl Faces made her appearance. Exactly what that means until you spend a little time with us. You spend a little time with me. There's a wonderful newsletter you can subscribe to at mannyfaces.substack.com. This newsletter we'll talk about a little bit before we get into the interview tonight. We have some great folks we want to talk to. I don't want to spend too much time on the newsletter or the hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. I got a whole curated collection of things. Matter of fact, I'll show you real quick what it looks like. Oh, look at that. Come on, screen transitions and everything. Let's go. What's up to Natalie Crew? One of my day ones. Come on now. Natalie Crew, the best in the world. So what we're doing is, so if you see on the bottom of the screen, mannyfaces.substack.com, we have a newsletter that goes out to the people. And in that newsletter, we talk about hip hop being used for the greater good. What I do is I normally curate, as you see, hip hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. This is a collection, a hand-curated assortment of wonderful stories about hip hop music and culture that are innovative and insightful and uplifting. Not the kind of stuff you normally get in your hip hop media outlets, or certainly not in your mainstream outlets. I collect them, I find them, I dig deep, and I bring them to the forefront, and I deliver them wrapped in a beautiful bow, hot and steaming out of the oven, and parchment paper, and deliciously delivered to your doorstep, your electronic doorstep, in this newsletter that you see at the bottom of the screen that says mannyfaces.substack.com. So you should subscribe to that newsletter. It's for free. You'll get a lot of the stuff we're talking about tonight. Now, I normally spend about 20 minutes giving you some of the updates. Yo, I love it. Farm to table hip hop stories. Shouts to Darren. Shouts to Dr. Darren Graves. We about to get into it with D Graves. Right here, support the show. You can also do that. Look, I got little buttons for everything. You want to support the show? You can do that. Patreon.com/mannyfaces. You think this happens automatically? You think this happens because big corporatizations sponsor and pay us? No, they don't. They don't want real hip hop. They don't want hip hop that can save America. They don't want hip hop that can help uplift humanity and improve society. They don't want that. Only you could make this happen. Only you could prevent forest fires. Patreon.com/mannyfaces. You can make it happen right there. You see it on the screen. Shouts to Andrew Wang, of course, one of our great supporters you saw mentioned in the beginning. He's a Patreon supporter, and the Baby Girl Faces prelude gave all the names of the people that are supporters. So it can happen. Look what I could do. I don't have to type it. Remember I used to type it? I'm getting better at this. But like, if you want to subscribe to the Patreon, look, all I got to do is press a button and it goes into the chat. You see that? You see that? You see what just happened? You see, look in your chat. Cute. Look at that. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to sit there and type it like a moron. Okay, look. So we're making things happen. We're upgrading the situation. I look crisper, cleaner, no caffeiner. I smell, taste, touch, feel good. But it's not about me tonight. It's, of course, about who we're going to talk to tonight. Dr. Lauren Kelly. She's in the building. She's literally in the chat. Dr. Darren Graves, D. Graves, he's literally in the chat. These are two of my favorite people in the world. You'll find out why in a minute. Now, we did pre-record the interview, but they were so gracious to come and say, well, I'm going to sit in the chat, mainly because Andrew Wang was like, yo, they're going to be in the chat? Like, are they going to be in the chat? Because I want to talk to them in the chat. Like, I know it's pre-recorded, but are they going to be in Yes, they're going to be in the chat. Of course, they love you, Andrew. Everyone comes through for this. So, yes, we are fancy Natalie Crew. We're making it happen. But again, let's go. Let me talk. It's going to be a long interview. So we're not going to do hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. I got a bunch of stories I'm going to talk about. Here's the thing. Sneak peek. I'm going to come back and do a Wednesday hip pop-up show. Normally, you know me, Mondays, 9 p.m. I was working all weekend to get this new finagling thing happening. Look, you want to look at the chat? Come on, look. Let's look at the chat together. Wait, that's weird. You see the people, but you don't see the messages. Dang it. All right, we'll work on that. Anyway, you see what I'm trying to do? We're stepping up our game. So I'm going to come back Wednesday. Come back, see if y'all around Wednesday night. We're going to do hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. It's going to look and sound a little something like this. Hip-hop news that isn't about dumb shit. All right, hope you heard that. So in the meantime, in between time, I don't know why I'm not hearing things, and I did switch up everything. So please, if you don't hear something in the chat, let me know. We're going to run this interview. This is very important. So I've worked with Dr. Lauren Kelly for many, many years. If you've heard me in any of the things I do, we've talked about the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference that happens out of Rutgers University every year. I've been a mentor. I've been just honored without like beyond belief. Rutgers University is my dad's alma mater. He was a distinguished professor of sociology. Grew up in Newark, New Jersey. So for me to be uh, someone that didn't go to college, I kind of found my own way. To be associated with Rutgers University was very special. Lauren was there. She had developed this wonderful program, which we've talked about and we'll talk about tonight, the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. And it ties in a lot with what we talk about here on this show, the use of hip hop music and culture to authentically connect with the culture, to find ways to improve humanity. And some of that is actually working with the youth, working in conjunction with the youth, working in collaboration with the youth, not just sort of speaking down to the youth, but also receiving information and valued perspectives from youth. That's a tenet that Dr. Lauren Kelly taught me. She was a early guest on this show some years ago when it first started, one of the first sort of wave that got me into this this movement of amplifying and signal boosting the folks who are doing this job. Once we got to a certain level, we've done the conference a few times. Recently, her and the acclaimed Dr. Darren Graves, who you'll hear from in a minute, came together to co-edit a book called the Bloomsbury Handbook of Hip Hop Pedagogy. Now, hip hop pedagogy is sort of a burgeoning, blossoming field of pedagogy, which is a way to teach people, in educational systems. So you find that hip hop based education has been something that's been, kind of bubbling and simmering below the surface. And as the years progressed, as we've talked about in the show ad nauseum at some points, it's really becoming a viable, receipts laden form of helping young people in their educational journey. We've seen this throughout multiple school levels, whether it's elementary school, middle school, high school, collegiate level. We've seen hip hop being used as a subject worthy of study. So we've seen that happen. We've seen that across the board. But the hip hop pedagogical approach is hip hop being used as a way to teach, as a methodology of looking at the educational system and saying we can incorporate this music and culture that most people are attached to in some way, and we can intertwine that with some of the traditional methods of teaching and develop a new way of teaching that is super effective and super compelling to help young people from all walks of life. But as I like to say, most importantly, perhaps the communities from whence hip hop came that have been long underserved and under-resourced and underloved by the greater educational and societal communities. So that being said, I had to get my good friends. We've worked together on not on this book. I wasn't part of the book, but I was part of the sort of spin-off of the book, a complementary project, a podcast that accompanies the book. Because, I do podcasts, kind of what I do is my thing. So we'll talk about that. But I wanted to get Darren and Lauren in the room, in the building one time after we spent some time together off-site. And I fully realized how important this book is to anyone who's interested in diversifying, bringing equity, bringing authenticity, bringing perspectives into the educational system, whether it be elementary school teachers, whether it be middle school, high school teachers, whether it be higher education, institutes of higher learning, whether it be parents. We talk about this, parents, just the intellectually curious, and hip hop heads who don't necessarily think of the education system as being a place that they could lend their talents. But we advocate for all of these things. So that being said, let's get into it. It's a good long interview, but my friends are here in the building, in the background. Please contribute to the chat. Give this video a thumbs up, like it, subscribe. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you got notifications turned on, all the YouTube-y things. Let's get into it. I sure hope this works because I've been trying to revamp the system. But you'll let me know in the chat if we're sounding, looking good, smelling good, tasting good. See me, many faces. This is Hip Hop Can Save America, a.k.a. the most enlightening hip hop podcast in the world. Act like you know. Let's go. My talk with Dr. Lauren Kelly and Dr. Darren Graves. Let's go. Thank you for stopping by, Dr. Lauren Lee Kelly, Dr. Darren Graves, the co-editors of the Bloomsbury Handbook of Hip Hop Pedagogy, and friends of mine, and we've worked together on a bunch of things. And it's really great to see y'all. We haven't been in the same place at the same time for a minute, so it's nice to see your faces.
For sure.
Thanks for stopping in. Obviously, we want to talk about the book. The book has been, semi-recently released earlier this year, I guess, right? So it's still pretty hot off the presses, as they say. I want to talk about the book. I want to talk about the idea of hip-hop pedagogy for the uninitiated and what it means to put together this, this pretty hefty handbook, as it were. Nice word, because that's what it's called. So I'm able to use that word because y'all gave it to me. But that being said, please, I know y'all, so it's like very friendly and informal, but to those who might be watching or listening that don't, I could just read your bio. That's boring. If you would, please present yourself the way you like to be presented to the world. Dr. Darren Graves, we'll start with you, sir.
Hello, my name is Dr. Darren Graves. Most people know me as Darren, or if you're really close, you might know me as D Graves, but that's me. And I am a professor at Simmons University and lecturer at Harvard Graduate School of Education.
Oh, I've heard of that place. Dr. Kelly, Lauren, how are you?
Great, thanks. Lauren Kelly, associate professor at Rutgers University Graduate School of Education. And I am a co-author, co-editor with D Graves, which I've never called you that before, but since that's, I guess, the intimate term for knowing you, I'm gonna start now.
So,
yeah, I'd like to take the opportunity to call you D Graves too. So D Graves, yes, thank you. I think I'm glad we're that close. How long was for those who don't know, the Bloomsbury Handbook of Hip Hop Pedagogy is a compilation, or I don't know an anthology. Is that the correct term?
I think
or a collection.
Let's go with collection. Okay. So I would say collection or compilation, because anthology for me is like these things already existed and you're sort of pulling together things that have already been in existence, but this is like all new and fresh. So each track in this book just came out, was not accessible before, and it's something that was specifically created for this collection.
Overseeing this project and compiling the compilation, what was the overarching goal? What's this book intended to do?
Yeah, I think we were trying to think about where hip hop ed is at this moment, and where hip hop is at this moment, and it's in a precarious place because of its popularity. And trying to set some sort of guidelines, some principles, some North Stars for how hip hop ed should be implemented, thought about, theorized, authentically moving forward. So that was, I think, the impetus for this project.
Yeah. For the uninitiated, most people listening or watching, it's a pretty niche show. They're going to know what we're talking about. But the idea, the concept of hip hop education, hip hop pedagogy, again, for the uninitiated or for those who might be in different fields, they don't understand the depth and breadth of hip hop as an educational vehicle. I don't want to say tool. Sounds kind of, clumsy, but like a vehicle or a pedagogy. What does that look like just on a very layperson's level? And then how deep and complex does it get that y'all had to put together a whole some 100-page handbook to get it right?
Super complex. So hip hop pedagogy is going to look different in different classrooms, right? Based on where you are in the world, what subject area you're teaching, the age that you're teaching, the language, like all the things that go into who a person is, the community that they're in, what makes up one's identity is going to have an influence on how and why you're working with hip hop in the classroom. But essentially, it's the idea that hip hop is a powerful force in the world. And in particular, it's a powerful force in young people's lives. And so just like any other powerful force, it should be included in classrooms. It should be interrogated and investigated in classrooms with students, right? Not sort of for them or on behalf of them, and not to criminalize the genre, and not to challenge it in ways that distance students from it. And so the idea of hip hop pedagogy, which is sort of within the field of hip hop education, is how do we interact with hip hop as a form of not just music, but also language and culture and identity, a lens for understanding and being in the world. How do we bring that into classroom spaces in order to engage with young people in ways that are healthy for them? And ways that help them to understand themselves and understand the world, and to carve out a path for them in the world, right? Especially because schools are sort of historically places where we tell students who and how to be in order to seek success. And so hip hop pedagogy forces us to think about what that really means, right? What is it to be successful as a young person in the world, and as someone who's trying to chart out their path in it. And D. Graves, feel free to
Yeah, that's a great.
step in.
Yeah, that's a great breakdown.
Yeah, no, I heard part of the question was about then the process of trying to make this happen, right?
Yeah, knowing this as a foundation, I guess, this is what we're trying to do as hip hop education surveyors. How complicated does that get? To try to rein all of that in, because it's both wide and expansive, but also it has some tenets, right? So how do you juggle that?
Right. And I think there's this tension, and to me, the hip hop and education are together. They're the same. They're not, right. But there's a tension sometimes between hip hop and schooling, right? Because schooling is institutionalized, right? And so and schooling is about conformity often, and hip hop is like, I don't know, about the opposite of that, right? And so one of the real tensions of putting this together was like, we're putting this together for the academy, right, in some ways, or through the academy, but we're not. We wanted this for some. We didn't want this to be for the academy, because the academy the academy is not really about that life writ large. There's a few of us, but like not really, right? And so we were thinking about audience that was larger than the academy. For one, that's important. We were also thinking about voices that were going to be included in this volume, that were not going to be stodgy, professors from the ivory tower too, right? So we were trying to be really expansive about where we saw expertise lying. And so I think we were really intentional about thinking about the diversity of voices we were bringing to the volume, in terms of like their quote unquote professional background, or their connection to the culture. And we talked about it, and Lauren, can say more about this, but in the introduction talked about ways that we were trying to reach out to some folks who were like real pioneering contributors to the culture, to be part of this, because that was kind of our ethos. And we ran into dilemmas because, like, we didn't have no money to like pay people to do this. This is like an academy thing. This is where the academy thing comes in, right? Like, right. And so people were rightfully asking us about like, well, how am I going to get compensated for this? And we were
interesting,
so, and we were like, and which we did not think was an unfair question.
Sure.
And we did not have the right answer for them. And so that created, dilemmas. We are very happy we love the family that we created, putting this book together. And we definitely had intentions of having other people in that family, as well. But we couldn't, we just couldn't make it work in that way.
That's interesting, in that in and of itself opens up like a different dialogue, a different dilemma in the pursuit of hip hop as a real thing, getting folks to finance these things, getting folks to fund these things, getting research grants, getting people to, I don't know, give to someone's Patreon account so they could continue doing one of the most enlightening hip hop podcast live stream shows in the world. I just hypothetically, just saying, that's for you listeners and watchers. But that presents a problem in of itself. So I'm glad that you were able to still assemble this, Avengers team of brilliant minds to put this stuff together. What are some of the, I guess, I mean, explain the entire book in 5 minutes, but what are some of the I guess, key takeaways that someone might get from you? Say it's not for the academy. I'm sure that folks that are in this field are going to find it super valuable. And then like who else might find value in it? And I think we can sum that up by some of the takeaways that one might get from perusing this gargantuan tome. I don't know how big it is. It seems big.
You haven't seen the Cliff Notes version? You haven't gotten the Cliff Notes version yet?
No, what I have is none of that. I tried to buy the book, but not enough people pay my Patreon account, so I can't afford the book. No, I'm playing.
No, Manny.
Lauren, go. Yeah.
I was gonna save this for after, because this is like a personal chat, but we have your book. It's here. I am not in Atlanta. But
no, you are not.
I guess I could
I
like
appreciate that. I
mail
look
it or something,
forward.
but I'd rather wait until I see you.
Nah, I'll
Got
be.
you.
It's all good. Well, you're also you've been kind of everywhere, so it's hard to track you down as well. Up there fellowing at Harvard and things like that. That you conveniently left out of your original introduction, but I won't discount. That being said, so some key takeaways from the book that academics and others, and who might those others be?
Yeah, forgive that. It's
Go ahead,
the
Lauren.
jet
You're on a
lag.
roll.
I'm going to leave a lot of things out today. So, this book, as
It's all
Darren
good.
explained, is really audience-wise. We didn't want it to be narrow at all. So this is not, which is a tough thing. Like, and we can do a whole thing about the book proposal world. When they ask you audience, right, and you're supposed to have this like one singular audience, and it's like hip hop doesn't have a singular audience, first of all,
Right.
nor does this book. And so we wrote it for teachers. We wrote it for professors. We wrote it for grad students. We wrote it, put it together. We compiled it, co-edited it for high school students, for community members, for librarians, for parents. We really want it to be something that is accessible, linguistically accessible, right? Content-wise accessible, but also something that's useful, right? Not a book for the sake of having a book, but something that can be of use in the world. And so it covers there's sort of like a basic intro to the history of hip hop. It's not all of it, right? Because the history of hip hop is so layered and so in depth. But we wanted someone who maybe knows nothing about this, but maybe they have a student who's interested, or someone's on leave and they got to teach the hip hop class and they're like, oh shoot, I need to learn something. So it's sort of like a crash course into here's sort of some basic understandings of this history and culture. And then also sort of a brief overview of the history and culture of hip hop education, right? Which is not synonymous with hip hop. It's sort of its own thing. And then we also sort of the sections work through, the history of the culture, what it is culturally and historically, and then what it means as a form of theory, right? Which is not often talked about, right? Hip hop is seen as music, right? It's seen as sort of this cool thing that maybe can get students more engaged in the classroom. We're like, it's so much more than that. It's actually a way of seeing the world, right? A way of thinking. And then we talk about research in the field of hip hop and education, and of course, teaching. So we include voices of teachers, of students, of undergrad students, folks who are just sort of emerging from undergrad right now, who are emerging scholars in this field. So we're really including voices to make sure that we're not sort of the old heads saying like, this is what hip hop is and isn't, right? That we're not the gatekeepers of this culture. And we're really inviting everyone to participate in co-constructing this dialogue around what hip hop pedagogy is and what it can do in the world.
Yeah, that's dope. What I'm always particularly interested in research, right? Because I think research shows the receipts to a lot of things. You know what I mean? And it's like when I'm speaking to folks who are outside, less familiar with the culture, and I'm espousing all these ideals of hip hop education and hip hop being really great for all the people. My dad being a, distinguished professor of sociology would have been like, well, where's the data? Right. And I'm like, okay, we actually have some of that now. Can you give me an idea a little bit about the research section and what some of the things you highlighted in the research, section of the book, or some of the ideas that are floating around that are research driven?
Yeah, I think I'm not sure this is exactly the answer to your question, because I think we were thinking the research section was really thinking about like how one might engage in doing research.
Even better. Yeah. Okay.
Using hip hop sensibilities. And so one of my favorite parts was I think it was Dr. Emery Petchower has this wonderful chapter on thinking about hip hop sensibilities, like rupture, mixing, there's some other ones that I'm not thinking off the top of my head because I'm just doing a bad job, but using those sensibilities as ways to think about how to do research methodology. So he's talking about ways in which if you can, because oftentimes, for example, folks use multiple theories, right? As they're doing their research or analysis, but how they use it is sort of like they're sort of they're not using it like entire theories together. They're sort of, they might use an entire theory over here, but then a little bit and part of it from over there, right? And so he's sort of talking about using like the mixer right? As a metaphor for like how you're modulating which theories you're bringing in here, you know, and how that might fade away when you're looking at something else over here. And so I just thought it was a really brilliant way and a really innovative way of both thinking about hip hop beyond its, you know, core elements or its tenets, right? And then moving into the realm of thinking about the sensibilities of hip hop, which I think are, to me, like more super fascinating, in ways that I think people are actually like, probably like being and living hip hop more than they're sort of more than through, you know, enacting specific tenets or right. So, and then, but then the notion of then how you can then bring that into the realm of this, like, you know, this sort of, you know, sort of like stodgy field of like research and research methodology. Like, how do you even do the research or conceptualize it? Right. Was really was like a really fascinating. And then there's much more in there, but that's just what came to me off the top of the head.
And Dr. Tasha Iglesias' contribution, sort of spinning off of that, talks about what it is to be a doctoral student doing research that's so sort of authentically entrenched in hip hop culture and community and education, and having all sort of the stodgy faculty members saying like, this isn't legitimate, right? This isn't real. There isn't a framework for that, right? So having to do exactly what Darren just described, which is sort of pulling together this theoretical framework that is still authentically hip hop, and that also is in dialogue with existing theories sort of within the field. And so that's why, to go back to the original question about like why this book, because we recognize that folks who are doing work in this field, who are doing research, are going to hit those roadblocks, right? And those gatekeepers that are like, this isn't legitimate, this isn't a thing, there isn't a history of it. And so like, well, if they need to have an academic text to sort of base this on, even if we don't believe that that's what people should need, but we also understand that this is sort of the reality of the world that we're in, it sort of gives them that thing that they could say like, there's a whole Bloomsbury Handbook of Hip Hop Pedagogy saying that this is a thing and that this is legitimate, from scholars who are doing this incredible work. And so, yeah, it's a really dope section too.
Right. That's why in this case, I wouldn't have the data to show my dad. I'd have a whole book about, here, read this and shut up and let me know later what you think. And my dad's not around now, but I still have these arguments with him. So that is interesting. And it also, it conjures up the idea that, you know, I often preach about, where, you know, everybody who tried to be a rapper at one point and then didn't go and become a successful rapper tends to be a better public speaker. Like, they tend to have better communication skills or better social and emotional intelligence because they've dealt with, you know, and in what you're telling me about the research, it's like, this is a way to better research hip hop. But then using hip hop as a way to research is a better way to research.
Facts.
It's just, you know what I mean? It's like a new way of being able to research. And what do we see so often in the research world or in the academic world, or, you know, all these things, is you've had this, you know, one way of doing things, or this, you know, centralized way of doing this, Eurocentric or, you know, old fashioned or whatever way of looking at things. And so you miss so much. You know, you miss so much by not looking at it through that lens, through the sensibilities of multiculturalism, or, you know, or in this case, hip hop, which is that and more. And now you've developed a new thing that hip hop, like, both had something to do with and also has nothing to do with. That makes sense?
I think that's what hip hop is, right?
Yeah, well, facts.
I think that's what hip hop is, right? It's sort of putting itself in a place where it didn't sort of belong in the first place, and also while simultaneously being like, this is ours. Like, what are you talking about? This is ours. Like,
As we often, you know, Grandmaster Caz quote from The Art of Rap, the documentary, where he says hip hop didn't invent anything, but hip hop reinvented everything. You know, it's in the intro to this podcast. It's part of the thing.
Pulled the words right out of my brain.
There you go. So, well, you know, slightly less genius mind and genius minds sometimes think alike. So yes, it's very dope. It's a beautiful thing that you don't even, you know about if you don't know, you don't know. And that's why it is important that books like this exist, even though they, you know, it's like the book we wish we didn't have to write because we wish everyone knew this already and didn't have to give you in a book. Yeah, I get it.
Or that it didn't have to be a book.
Right.
For it to, and we can talk a little about that. Or it didn't have to be a book for it to
talk
be
about
a
it.
thing.
Yeah, talk about it. Tell me what that invokes.
Man, well, listen. So, like, real talk. Like, you know, we I don't know how to say this politely, but like, the way that the book is currently back to the Academy, right? So the Academy's got this, the Academy's Academying, right? And so
Right.
and so the book as currently priced is just not accessible, and we're not, and we would like it to. I'll just put it
I
as
understand.
we'd like it to be more accessible.
Right.
In the means, and it will be when we start to when the Academies
Right.
it'll be
There's a
it'll be
time frame or
it'll be
something.
a
Yeah,
soft cover edition, and
Right.
it'll be more accessible. So there's that.
Right.
In the meantime, as you know, Mandy, we've been working on a podcast, a companion podcast to the book, for a variety of reasons. If not one, just to like make it, I don't know, the learnings and the wisdom and the knowledge, right, accessible to the people at
Right.
the very least. And that's part of the goal of the podcast is, and also, but I think also to model for the Academy, here we go, we were just talking about reinventing, right? To model for the Academy possibilities for how we can disseminate information through the Academy moving forward. So that for us, one of the goals of this is, yes, to have a podcast that, as you know, Mandy, as you've been working with on this, is like just a super fun project. It's been a great opportunity to like connect with folks who are connected to the project, and learn but also for it to be like an actual companion piece to the the written book, right?
Right.
That
Right.
people can, guess what, like cite and
Right.
find and treat as a
Literature.
a text, right? That
Yeah.
that is rigorous and that has things to be learned from. And that's that. And Lauren, I'm sure you want to have to say something else about this, but yeah, we were really, that's where our energies are really being put right now. We want to figure out how to make sure that people can actually access this knowledge.
Yeah, I love it.
Thinking about the ways that people take in knowledge, right? So anyway,
Yeah.
And something that I really love about the podcast project, as a companion to this piece and the book itself, going back to sort of how it disrupts the Academy, is that what they also ask for, when you're a grad student, even, as an academic, is that everything is supposed to somehow be like really neat and perfect, right? So, like every question has an answer and that you can answer. And I think hip hop is a reminder that like it's messy, right? Like nothing ever has a direct answer. And I think it really came through when folks listen to the podcast, like here's all these brilliant minds who do this work, who know their fields, who are experts. And we don't all agree on these things, right? Like we don't all have a shared definition of what hip hop is and isn't, right? Or who authentically is a part of the culture. And I think that
no one does. Yeah.
No one does.
Right.
And I think it's such a perfect example of like the reality of, so like the Academy says, right, that like you have this research question and then you collect data and you answer the question and you publish it. And now we all know the answer. And like none of that is real, right? It's a response to a question. And I think what we see in the book, and we really tried to tease out these tensions in this book and show that like we're all experts and we're all questioning all the time, right? And we're all students all the time, and no one really knows. And we're going to lean into that messiness. And there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of wisdom that comes from the unknowing and from having that discussion. And I think there's so few places in the Academy where you get to do that, right? Where you get to authentically say like, there's things we don't know, but like, let's talk about it. It's like, you're not allowed to show the behind the scenes, like questioning of things. And I think hip hop reminds us that we should, right? How can you learn if there aren't questions floating around all the time?
Yeah, I appreciate it. And one of the tensions that I think showed up in that regard is the notion of that many of the educators who are in hip hop ed are like in a different generation than the hip hop generation than their students, right? And so one of the key tensions that we kind of address in that regard is like, how do you because we had young folks even at our last AERA big research meeting, hip hop ed meeting, we had young folks coming at us like, this doesn't feel like the hip hop that I listen to. This doesn't feel like you're representing the culture in the way that I, right, experience it, which I think, which by the way, I loved.
Right.
I love it. Like I welcome this, right? This is like, and I have, Manny, I have like teenage daughters. So I live this life. My whole life is like people coming at me, telling me I'm wrong. So
Right.
It's all good. But yeah, but we
Fair.
we explore that tension head on in the book too. This notion that like no matter we're situated in a specific moment, but like regardless of the moment, there's gonna be moments where like it's gonna be different generations of folks like trying to like interface each other around the culture and like exploring the tensions of what it means. And me not trying to, and my daughters have fully made this 100% possible. Like that for me not to be the get off my lawn hip hop fan, right? Like, oh, I have the original stuff. This is all, what is this? Forget it, right?
Yeah.
We explore that tension specifically because that dynamic's going to reproduce itself over and over, just in different ways and iterations.
It's also fun when it works the other way around. I was in a car and I'm playing like Sirius XM. And it's like The Groove, which is all like 70s soul and R&B. And All Night Long comes on, right? So All Night Long is rocking. And Baby Girl Faces goes, "That's where that's from?" And I'm like, "What you talking about?" She goes, it's a mattress firm commercial. Like the guy, they use it in a mattress firm commercial. So it's really, yeah. And so then she calls it up on YouTube and shows it to me. And I'm like, so it's really fun when you're open to like both, when that goes back and forth. You jumped into it and it was kind of where I was going. And Lauren, you've done it. I mean, your work, which I cite all the time, either in writing or just, telling stories, the work you've done when you've examined things from a younger hip hop perspective, and going so far as to say, oh, I thought I was doing it right, but then I really had to talk to the kids and find out like, oh, here's how maybe I should really be doing it in terms of interrogating young people and how they see the world using hip hop as our common denominator, but having to make sure that we do what Darren says, like not be the the old heads. So in both of y'all, but just Lauren, if you want, in your experience now teaching teachers how to teach, right, or working with teachers who are coming up in the game, young researchers, what are you seeing like trend wise? Like, are they bringing up things that even y'all didn't even think about when you're trying to think about all the things to think about? What are y'all seeing? The next generation.
It's, first of all, a lot of it depends on the person and the moment. But what I'm finding and what I've been in some ways disheartened by, but also invigorated by, is that what I'm seeing with teachers, students who are training to be teachers, and also students who are students and training to be students, is how insidious these structures are in schools, right? So you would think, right, because young people are young people, because they're hip hop heads, that they sort of have this anti-institutional attitude, right? That they have this like, I'm going to do it my own way, right? And I'm realizing it's actually really rare, right? So like the Stevie Johnsons of the world, right? The A.D. Carsons of the world, those folks that say, I'm going to enter these institutions and do it my way. It's more rare, and it's more likely that people are sort of indoctrinated or trained to do things in a particular way. And so even in the process of putting this book together, we were sort of going back and forth with some folks, even some of the younger folks, about like, you don't have to do it like that, right? Like just because your English teacher said that you have to do it like that doesn't actually mean you have to. And so there's been a lot of unlearning that has to happen in the teacher education classroom, with young folks who are sort of in this intergenerational hip hop community world, where they're kind of, after so many years of being indoctrinated in K-12 schooling, and in some ways in university classrooms, they feel like they have to write the way that their professors write, right? They feel like they have to write the way that people in books write, right? They have to sound like an academic. And so there's actually been a lot of hard conversations we've had to have where we're like, yo, be you. And they're like, my entire life, I've been told that I can't. And now you want to turn around and tell me to write? Like, I don't even know who that is anymore. And so that's really what I'm finding more than anything else, is that there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen. We have to reinforce the idea that these institutions don't also have the right answers. Just because they've existed and just because they have names like Harvard, it doesn't mean that they are right? That they are correct in what they do, that we have to do what they say, that we have to fit in to those boxes. And it's really hard because it's worked for people, right? And so that's what I'm finding, is trying to find ways to obviously still make sure that people feel like they can be successful, right? It's not like burn it all down and like hopefully you'll find a job and be able to live your life, but also to think about what are the ways you can push against and reshape these structures and institutions, as opposed to just fitting into them, right? Because then everyone's going to be struggling all the time. And so we're opening doors if we are sort of carving out those spaces and not just kind of like fitting into them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if that was sad.
I would take a slightly different take.
No, it's important.
That's real.
I have a follow up, but Darren, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead, man.
No, well, because you may lend insight. Go ahead. I'm not gonna forget it. Go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say I'm sort of invigorated by what I'm seeing with the young folks today. Lauren will be first to tell you that, like, like the hip hop that I'm listening to today is like a lot of like UK grime kind of scene.
Yeah.
And I'm really sort of fascinated with some of the Afrobeat and I'm a piano stuff that's going on over on the African continent. So I'm just so fascinated with how folks, particularly outside the US, are remixing and remixing, right? Because there's so many layers to, like, you know what I mean, like, but like how they're remixing hip hop. What it's to me, Lord could also tell you, I'm just fascinated with, like, just like England in general, especially Black folks in England. And so to me, it's just like a nice win. It's a win, even if it's through the lens of like pop, 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 shada, 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 right? Like, I'm still, I'm getting senses of like what's it like, what's life like over there.
Okay.
What kind of issues are folks, young folks dealing with these days, right? I'm interested in the ways that folks on the continent are moving their bodies, right, and creating, like, movements around, whether it's in Ghana or in South Africa, right, or Nigeria. And there's a part of me that feels like my parents did, right? I'm trying to resist to being the way my parents were, which was like, my parents heard the music I was listening to. They were like, what is this? I'm not like, I don't like the language. I don't like the content. It's not like the stuff I listen to. This is a problem. So I'm trying to fully not be that person. Right. Like, really. And try and really, because when my response to them was, oh, it wasn't just about the content. It was a vibe. It was a feeling, or it was like, representing a context that made sense to me or whatever, right? And so I'm trying to take that lens as I listen to the music of today, whether it's from US or beyond, and really and to me, it's like kind of invigorating, right? It's invigorating because I'm seeing the world both, yes, through the lens of my old ass person who's just like, like, y'all need to do things, my way, but also like it's inspiring a sense of hope, freedom dreaming. How about this? Freedom dreaming. And this is what gets to Lauren was talking about. The Academy is not built for freedom dreaming at all.
Right.
Hip hop is. And so here we go. Like, now we got to, like, figure out, when we bring these things together, like, how can we make hip hop ed a space, now maybe not the space, but at least a space for actual freedom dreaming in the Academy. Okay. Without that, like, the Academy is not doing it for me. It's I get paid by them 100%, but it's just not doing it for me. There's nothing from the Academy that's moving me right now at all. Sorry. Besides the Bloomsbury hip hop handbook of hip hop pedagogy. Besides that, they did it. They did good. They done D Graves good.
So this is going to be like a philosophical thing. I don't want to get too deep in the conversational weeds. We have a podcast for that. But it brings me to something that I'm now really starting to think about, and I'm sure y'all have we've all thought about it. Especially now, because as wonderful as the world is, we're in America, and I don't know if you know this, but America doesn't really like changing stuff, especially if it benefits people that don't look like me. So what happens is they resist all of this. And now you're seeing a lot of the progress that's been made by folks like progressive educators. I'm just saying progressive in general. I'm not even getting to the abolitionist types, South of Dr. Bettina Love and people who advocate for abolitionist, theories in education. But just folks have been like, no, we could do it a little different. We could sit in a circle. Like, we could bring a DEI aspect, even if it's not official. Like, they've done this work for years, and I think it's helped. It's gotten, depending who you would ask, there's an entire movement of people who would say that it's the worst thing in the world. That all being said, if we believe that it's a good thing, if we believe progressive educational practices are good, if we believe that hip hop is the most progressive educational, thing that we can work into the mix, and if we believe all those things, they're trying to stop all that. They were letting it go for a while. You could do it. You could get, you could be A.D. Carson. You could be Dr. Kelly. You could be Dr. Grace and be in the spot and kind of maintain your authenticity to both your cultures, whether it's Black American culture, hip hop, the Venn diagram where they live together. You could do that. But now, no, they're going to stop all that. They're going to stop, especially in some states. The bigger question is, how much can we rely on the academy for being a place where we can make those changes within the academy? And how are we going to do it outside of the academy if that is less and less likely moving forward? Does that make sense? I mean, I'm trying to say we don't have a grassroots movement in hip hop like we used to. We kind of do, but we don't. It's not. How does that happen? How do we make it work?
Laura, do you have something for this?
Yeah, first of all, you can see from everyone's reaction, we don't rely on the academy for anything. And that's
no, I get
right?
it.
Like we
Right.
That can't be our end all be all, right? We can't make moves based on if the academy is going to accept it, or can I keep my job if I do that, right? If I publish this book, is this going to be the last thing I ever get to publish?
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah.
So
what else can we do? Yeah.
The hope that I find, and the reason I invest so much time and effort into the work that I do with young folks, who as I get older are becoming like they're younger, right? We used to call them like the youth, and now we're like the younger than us people, because they are also now like almost in their mid-20s. But I invest that time because I don't necessarily think that I have all the answers, right? Or that we have all the answers. We always have to be in dialogue with young people who just have a different perspective on the world, or who grew up in the world in a different way than we did, right? Who grew up with things like social media and we did not. So they're just going to have ideas and perspectives that we don't. But also through that dialogue and through that intergenerationality, we're able to sort of show them some examples of things, right? Introduce them, like we bring them to spaces like Simmons, to Teachers College, right? To Harvard, to Rutgers, so that they can understand these structures. They can understand how they operate, and then they can create their own structures, right? They can sort of decide for themselves which ones they want to adopt or fit into, or adapt, or just completely tear apart. And so for me, it's really long-term work. I don't think, any of this is overnight. It's not like just tomorrow we suddenly have this, this grassroots movement that's doing stuff. But I think over time we're building in ways that they can start to build their own institutions. They can start to build their own sort of spaces and structures for doing this work authentically. And I think they also cannot do that alone, right? In some ways, it's financially, they don't have the resources, right? So I think, again, that collaboration allows for young people to lean on us, to ask questions, right? To have us as a resource, and also to create their own things. And so in my ideal world, the academy is not like the central piece of this, right? It is one resource and one tool in this larger work.
Yeah. That's what, before you guys, I just want to shout out, obviously you have the receipts for this with the work with the HHYRA, the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference and initiative. It's not just a conference. It's, not just a one, and then you're done. The whole thing you've done with that. And I do encourage folks who say, oh my God, yes, I'm a teacher or a community organizer or a nonprofit leader. To say, I love what you're talking about. What does that look like in practice? It looks like that in practice. It looks like the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference and initiative that you spearhead. And so people should look into that as a way to model how it's been done brilliantly, how you bring up younger folk with this mentality, and then with the full intent of, hey, we are handing you the torch before you even want it, but you're going to take this torch, you're going to, and move it forward, and we'll help you, guide you as much as we can. But, take it and go, because your ingenuity, this has been hip hop's thing also. The ingenuity of the youth is unsurpassed, and we can't even fathom it. And that's why young people are always at the center of innovation. So it's just a brilliant way to do it. So Darren, I'm sorry, I just wanted to give props and let people know that this is a thing that exists. It's not just, you said it's in your ideal world. Yeah, in an ideal world, it's all over the place, or it's bigger and we all do it. But you have the motto, and I just want to give props. Darren, go ahead.
Come on now, exactly. Thank you, and so thank you for shouting it out, and leave it to Dr. Lauren Kelly to put it in the youth's hands, right? For issues, for senses of hope, and I'm with that too. I also think the subtext of this is where the sensibilities of hip hop is also important, right? So this question is like, there's a context in which everybody's like trying to tear this down, and so how do we do this? Like, so that's, I don't know, that's just like the context of how hip hop was born, right? Like, and so like the context of hip hop was born is like they're literally burning the city around us and yet here we still are, right? And so to me, some of this is like we have to hold on to that sensibility of like what was hip hop born under? Like what was it what was it trying to do? To me, the Academy, if we're gonna use like as a metaphor, the Academy to me is like the light pole. Right, it's the light pole that you steal the electricity from, so that then you can do the party, right? If you need it, you need it for something, but it's not the thing, right? And so
you could do the party in the rec room, but if you want to do it outside, we found a way to do it.
Right. And so
got it.
And so to me, it's like it's taking the sensibility of the subversiveness of hip hop, right? The subversions of the culture, right? That we're in spaces that we're not invited in. And we got to find ways to do the thing even when we're being surveilled, right? Even when we're being surveilled, we still got to figure out how to do this, right? And do it right. And so we got to take those same sensibilities in terms of how we position the work that we do in the Academy. Like, where do our courses live? How do we right? So maybe we can't, maybe there are things that we can't say like in the title of the course, but the title of the course still draws the people who want to do the right work, right? And then we do the work we got to do in the course, right? And classrooms are always spaces that are sort of simultaneously somewhat surveilled, but also simultaneously like these islands where you can do your thing. And so hip hop ed is part of a larger educational movement that's rooted particularly, I think, not solely, but particularly in Black education movement, which has a whole history of doing the right thing, so under the cover of darkness, because it wasn't allowed, and we're gonna do it anyway. And so we come from a legacy of educators of many different races who had to fight against systems that said, your morals are wrong, right? Even though we know that they're right, and figure out ways to get it done, one way or another. And I think HHYRA, by the way, is a perfect example of what that could look like, right? It's ways in which, you can, garner the resources of institutions who want to do good work, who may not necessarily be like, I want to create a hip hop ed conference for kids. And maybe that's not what they're thinking. But guess what? Dr. Lauren Kelly has figured out a way to thread the needle of making the folks who are the gatekeepers for the resources feel like they're doing their mission. And guess what? Lauren Kelly's doing her thing with these young folks, right, on the side, right, front and center. And so I think we just got to we have to embrace that. Yes, we're in a moment where people are always fighting against us. So be it. That's not really ever
not been the case.
Right. Exactly. So let's go, right, and let's live hip hop in that way.
That is powerful, and it's inspiring. So thank you both for both of those sentiments. That's what I wanted to know. That's, I think that, as all these quotes that keep coming around where Tupac said, I may not be the one that changes the world, but I'm going to be the one to inspire the mind of the one who's going to change the world. Again, being in the Academy, being in the positions y'all are in, is not unenviable. It's a position that, you can make things happen. You could put things into the record. You can, and then you have those opportunities, like you said, Darren, either, sneak the medicine in, with the candy, and it's actually not a good phrase to use when we're talking about young people, or anybody for that matter. Now, I think, that's kind of been, you know what I mean, though. And there
we go.
I'm of a certain age, so I still have these, colloquialisms that we still should. Anyway,
I love it.
But you can get that done, in that way, and you can also then inspire the movements and the initiatives that can take it out of the Academy and do it in different places. I mean, we still see, even with the recent conference, Lauren, that I attended, and I've been very proud to be involved in the initiative and be a mentor and help out where I can here and there. The younger people that were once sort of the mentees, for the most part, kind of ran this conference. Now, they still leaned on academic, institution for assistance, but there's no reason that can't happen next year in a community center or in a nonprofit, or with the Urban League or with, some other organization. The blueprint is there. The Academy gave you the seeds, but you can go plant that in any field that you want. So it really is just testament to to what y'all are saying. And I just want to encourage other folks who might get discouraged. I mean, we talk all the time, our teachers, or feel like they got to leave because they're being, constricted, especially more and more as, the education system gets turned back, I don't know, about 100 years or so, give or take, but that there's still, you can still make a difference, and that it doesn't always have to be end all be all in the walls of those towers. So, I appreciate that. That also helps me, stay as Dr. Chris Emden, who was on the show about a week ago, said, just stay low and keep firing.
Mm-hmm.
He likes to say often. So I appreciate that sentiment. What else, as we wrap up, do you need, go ahead, Lauren.
Just a quick shout out to Many Faces, who was certainly, you said, attended. You were the MVP of the 2024 HHYRA conference. And while I was not there, Darren and I were in Philly doing a thing. I heard that the day would not have happened were you not there. Your genius mind just figuring things out with the technology and with, as Darren was saying, just trying to rig something when you were not given the tools for it to work. So thank you.
Oh yeah, it was very hip hop. Oh, it was super hip hop.
I appreciate that.
It was super hip hop. I appreciate the appreciation. It would have gone on. It just would have sounded different, let's just say. But it was good to be in space. And again, that's the thing. We, and I told him what I did and how we did it. And that's like each one teach one, which is, at the center of all of this stuff. So, so thank you for that recognition. I did what I could. And that being said, so again, we could talk all day. We could talk all podcasts. So there will be a companion podcast, maybe dribs and drabs as we get it out. So be on the lookout for that. If you want to learn more about the book, if you don't have the book, or if you just want to, if you have the book, you want to hear some of the, additional conversations that were much more conversational than even the loose, not informal, but not totally academic writing of the book. We got down and funky in the after party. So look out for that. Other than that, what else do you want folks to know about the book in particular, and then the stuff you're working on right now, just to kind of big up yourselves for a second?
I just want to say another cool part about the book was that it's an international. We wanted to consider an international audience. And so. Thanks. I think as editors, Lauren and I struggled a lot, because we do not see ourselves as the gatekeepers of language, and we talked about this, academic writing or whatever, but we also had to think about when we were using colloquial language, which we fully welcome, right?
Like putting the medicine in the candy, you got to make sure that you got to go ahead.
Maybe not that one, but
okay.
You know what I mean.
Right.
But the point is that we thought a lot about language and accessibility to folks who, may not be from the US.
Right.
We also thought about this as a snapshot in time. We fully expect that this book will be fully a part of the canon, 75 and 80 years from now. And so we were thinking about, just trying to make sure that it was written in a way that someone who was either not from the US, maybe not from hip hop culture, and not from this time would be able to access without turning it into a total, I don't know, I don't want to say censored version, but just kind of stripped down, not authentic version of people's voices and the representation of the culture. So that was one thing we thought a lot about. As people were writing and we're so no,
that's great. And I just because you have my book and I don't have it I've read parts of the book, and it's that comes across. Again, I'm not traditional academic. I don't sit I haven't gone through those those procedures and processes of reading things. So I'm just a layman, and sometimes now I'm an expert in this field, sure, whatever. But I also can recognize that this is accessible for folks. And you said it earlier, Lauren, you were like, who's the audience? Right. They want you to have a persona. And I'm like, I don't know, anyone who's intellectually curious about this stuff, that's fine. A parent, I always say we want parents to know that hip hop pedagogy is a thing, because your kid might not know it. Your teacher in school may not have it, but if you know it, then you could be a soldier in the movement by going to your local, board of ed and saying, hey, here's a whole ass book. We're not doing this because this seems like it might make sense to try, and then it's not just teachers and, guys with super dope podcasts, out here spreading the gospel. So I think that writing it in that way and making sure that you have those audiences in mind is the way to do it. So yay, y'all.
So I can add to that, just a quick plug for folks, just to get this book in your library, wherever you are, wherever you're teaching or living.
Good point.
You can just reach out to your local library. It's actually a really easy process. Most of the websites just have a form for it. If they're a little more old school, you might have to make a phone call or send an email. But if you can get your library to pick up this book, then folks can access it. And what's so beautiful about that, there's so many voices in this book that are not first time authors, but I guess this is their first published piece. So the more hands we can get their work into is the more that people can hear their voices. They could be cited. There's folks who've been like really doing this work, like Tasha Iglesias, Vera Naputi. And so to, just have more people hear from them and be able to cite them and amplify that voice is really important. So get it in your library, please. Also, we love libraries.
That's brilliant. And thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's a great idea. We should do a campaign just for that, just to, seed that idea. I love it. What else is next? What else do you got going on? And then where can people catch up with y'all on this thing? It's like an electronic thing where people can connect with each other. I don't know much about it. Go ahead.
The information superhighway.
Oh yes, that's it. That's what it. Yes. Luckily, we know some young people.
What am I working? Okay, so I did just finish the Nasir Jones Fellowship at the Hip Hop Archive at Harvard University, back at Rutgers University in the fall. I'll be teaching an introduction to hip hop education course in the spring. So anyone who is within the consortium. So if you're at a school where you can take classes at Rutgers, even though you're not a student, you could take the class. And of course, any Rutgers student is open to everyone. I'm really excited about it. And we'll be bringing in guest speakers such as Manny Faces, Darren Graves, other amazing folks. So look out for that. They haven't agreed to it yet, but they will. Currently working on putting together a book project with some of the younger leaders from the Hip Hop Youth Research and Activism Conference. So we'll be working on that this summer. Look out for that in the next, year or so. And also currently working on a book on hip hop education. So to further crystallize what we talked about earlier, Manny, about what does this work look like sort of tangibly in classrooms, it really gives you an intimate look at what does it look like to have conversations about rap specifically and about hip hop culture sort of more broadly with teenagers in classrooms. It's not neat. It is messy work, and it's also really beautiful work.
It's messy.
It's super messy, and there's a beauty in that tension. And so look out for that soon, coming from Teachers College.
I love it. Let me also remind people here in my background that while you're waiting for that, Teaching with Hip Hop in the 7 to 12 grade classroom, a guide to supporting students' critical development through popular text. It's similar to what you're talking about. I'm sure you'll get deeper into it, but this is your current book that's out and about, and I have it here. Placed gently
out now
and prominently. So if you don't want to wait, and you're like, oh my God, I got to read more of these words, that's the place to do it. Darren, and Lauren, and then online, what's your preferred social?
At DJ Duchess with 3 S's on all the things except LinkedIn, because I refuse. Just those invitations, they make me not want to be part of it. But yeah, at DJ Duchess with 3 S's, you can catch me there.
DJ Duchess and D Graves in the building. D, what you got coming up, and how can people find you?
First of all, I'm gonna start working with Lauren just because I'm always gonna be second fiddle to this person who is an amazing human being who's always doing all the things and amazing things. So just a shout out to Lauren Kelly, who, by the way, beyond all these forget all the academic accolade, all these academic things, is just an actual human being first.
Yes.
Real talk, right? And connects with people as human beings. When we have work meetings, we'll work, but it's not before we connect as a human being. So I just want to name that. And I'm always astounded by, we show up to places where I'm thinking we're just showing up to these places brand new, and Lauren has already connected 17 people beforehand, and is getting them into colleges and all types. She's just amazing. So I just wanted to name.
She is a treasure. I like that we're talking like she's not here. She is a treasure. I know. I love her dearly, and I'm glad that you feel the same way.
Just want to say that.
Also, this from the man who just walked the red carpet. So you better talk about that, please.
I'm going to, that's what I'm going
That's
to
right.
talk about, because I
That's
don't
right.
have I don't have as much going on with as Lauren on the academic side. But I will shout out, I did get a chance crazily this weekend to walk the red carpet at the Tribeca Film Festival, for a documentary called Black Table, by my good friends Bill Mack and John James, who are classmates of mine from Yale University, and it's a documentary about life as Black students in the class of '97. We were the largest class of African American students.
Mm.
And it was sort of against the backdrop of the real beginnings of the pushback against affirmative action. And so one of the people you might see in that picture, in that documentary, might be yours truly, who was one of the people interviewed for it. And so it was really cool. And the hip hop connection is like, and as I was saying before, what you really see in this is hip hop, like Black folks in particular and allies exhibiting hip hop sensibilities, in the ivory tower, in places where we were not allowed, in places that were not built for us. And so
Right.
you will see that in the way we move. And as I'm sort of like the playlist king, if you go onto my socials, you will definitely find a beautifully curated playlist of songs that went from August 1993 to May 1997, which is the time we was on campus together. And if you go on my socials, which on Instagram is at Blacker Star, and then Blacker is with a Q, and on Twitter or whatever it's called at Darren Graves, you can find access to the playlist as well. And Threads is the same thing as my Instagram and all that. So there you go.
Yeah, that's dope. I think it ties into what you said earlier. Sort of like these things are kind of all connected in a way. And I think if you're into one, then like understanding the history of that time period and what you're going through there and how it lends itself to everything that we're talking about here is very cool and connected. And isn't it all connected? It's great. I love it. We'll look forward to that. I guess that'll be out and about like the film festivals, and then at some point it finds its way into, regular folks' lives, not red carpet walkers, but we'll get it when we get it. So, all right, good to know. I will be following up with y'all. Obviously, we have some more work to do together. But other than that, I really think this worked out better than when it started, which people didn't get to see because it started really badly. It actually worked out really well. So I really appreciate y'all for your time. I miss y'all, and hopefully sooner than later we'll be in the same place at the same time, doing what we do.
For sure. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Manny.
Many faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
There it is. Bing bong. Dr. Lauren Kelly, Dr. Darren Graves, D. Graves, L. Boogie, my peoples, my friends, my mentors, my inspirations in this game. Part of my favorite people. It is true. I did get the book. And Lauren, I didn't say to you before, but I got this as well. So thank you. Thank you to everybody involved in this project. What I found years ago when I started delving into this work, as I was, for y'all who don't know the backstory, I started an online publication called Birthplace Magazine. And this was back in 2011 or so. And I started covering the independent music scene in New York, right? New York tri-state area. And this was at a time when hip hop had sort of migrated out of New York, and Houston was popping and Atlanta was popping, and the main like hip hop media was following the money, right? So they were down in Atlanta and they were doing all the things. And I said, well, there's a lot of things happening in New York still. Like, we still in New York, it's still the Mecca, right? And so I started writing stories and covering all the people who were doing like great work on the independent underground scene in New York. And what I started discovering were people who were, putting in that work on the independent scene, but we're also using hip hop in inventive, innovative ways outside of just entertainment. So there'd be folks that be spitting on stage at Freestyle Mondays, which was a game show, live band, freestyle battle game show event. And these dudes were spitting off the top of their head, and it was great. They would spin a wheel and there would be like a what do you call it? A topic, and be like, all right, it's food chain. It'd be like, you're a shark and you're a plankton, go. And these two dudes would have, or dudes or dudettes or people would have to like spit off top of the head. All right, I'm a plankton. So it'd be like, I'm just rapping about their perspective versus the shark or the dolphin or the whale or whatever. And it was great. One of the greatest things in hip hop history, Freestyle Mondays. Shouts to my man Corey and everyone with Freestyle Mondays. But I would talk to some of the people who got on stage and had the courage and the intelligence to spit at these events. And because you can't just be like random rapper, you have to know things. Like if someone's like, all right now it'd be like, all right, you're Kamala Harris and you're Donald Trump, go. And you got to rap from those perspectives intelligently and also be able to freestyle your ass off. So word, shouts to the Pyramid, shouts to where they do it at Bowery Electric, like shouts to New York City for the underground independent hip hop spots. And they would do this and I would talk to the people who were like on stage, like, yo, you're really like, this is dope, like you're really like smart, like, you know what I mean, like you have to be. And they'd be like, well, I'm also a teacher, or I'm also a poet, or like, McCallumine, my man who's been on the show a few times, like I work with youth and I work with nonprofit and I'm a teaching artist. And I started to understand the idea of teaching artist. And I said, oh, okay, not everything is entertainment. Not everything is pure, let them, spit and do the thing. And when I started meeting people like that, they started putting me on to like the people that were in hip hop academia. And Natalie Crew, you're watching, shout Snack Crew. It's not always a wonderful thing. Like I talk about the intersection of hip hop and education, hip hop and all these different areas. And it sounds great when I talk about it because I'm like, oh, these worlds collide and then magic happens and it's flowers and blooming and it's beautiful. And no, it doesn't always happen like that. There's a lot of people who are opportunists. There are a lot of people who come in that don't have an authentic, connection to the culture. As Nat Crew will tell you, the hip hop academic Chitlin circuit, like there. So we're wary of this. I'm trying to be independent. I'm trying to be understanding to all the different aspects. It's like Kamala Harris right now running for president of the United States. Like got my vote because not the other dude, but also like there's some issues with her. Like we got to talk and address those things. And it's not like we ignore all that because we want, the end result. So this happens in hip hop academia. What I loved about meeting people like Dr. Lauren Kelly, who, I love dearly and is a mentor and just a brilliant, like, you don't understand. Every time, like, I hear her speak, it's like hearing her for the first time. Folks like Dr. Bettina Love, Dr. Chris Emden, of course. These folks, they understand that. They understand that this isn't a gimmick. This isn't a way to get over. This isn't a way to get put on. This isn't a way to like, get your name up and do the things. I'm not saying who is. I can't call it. I can't say whether some of the OGs were just trying to do that or whether some of the people doing it today they're conscious of it. So I follow them because I just want to make sure that when we do this, we do it right. When I amplify the voices, I amplify the right voices. What this conversation showed me and what Lauren Kelly's first interview showed me is nobody knows what they're doing with this. And if you can admit that and say, listen, we're experts, but we're also learning. And we want to learn from the young people along the way. That's what I like to focus on. I believe in this. I believe in the idea that hip hop can save America. It's up here somewhere, right? Right? But it needs the right people at the helm. And so I was incredibly encouraged by Lauren and Darren and the work they do and the people that are in this book because it was done with that intention and that purpose. So that all being said, you might be a teacher, you might be an educator, you might be somebody in that realm tonight, and you were like, oh my God, if you didn't know about them or this, then you're like blown away. If you did know about them or this, you were, reinvigorated. If you're not an educator, if you're just a random hip hop head, this is important for you too. I want you to know that there's more to your music and your culture than the entertainment side. There's more to the music and the culture than what you see on whatever platform you might be in consuming music and entertainment. This whole thing exists. It's beautiful. It's powerful. It is the future. We need to uplift it. So if you could rock with me, and if you could support what we're doing, we'll continue to bring shows like this and people like this to the platform. My name is Manny Faces. You can support this show at patreon.com/Manny Faces. I can very quickly, because now I found a way to do that. Bong, look at the chat. Look, I didn't have to take my eyes off the screen for like 2 seconds. And all of a sudden I got like chat stuff being happening automatically. Look what's happening up here. It's all automatic. Look, we need your support. This is a movement. The people that are watching the show, contributing to the show, they're all part of the movement. Just like Kamala Harris raised $81 million in a day. Maybe we could raise $80 in a day. Patreon.com/MannyFaces. $5 a month. It's nothing. It's like buying me a coffee. Let's go. And we'll keep doing this. And we'll keep building. And then we'll get the big outlets to pay attention to us. The big outlets don't necessarily want us. They want to see hip-hop remain ignorant. They want to see the streamers who are streaming just talk about the ratchet shit. They want to talk about the, drama and the violence and the whatever's. I wasn't on the complex top media figures of the, why should I be? They don't know me. I only got a handful of people watching right now. But people are paying attention and they're saying, this is the important work. This is the real hip-hop culture. So that being said, I thank you for joining me tonight. We have a great newsletter that accompanies this. If you like what you heard today, and by the way, thanks to Andrew Wang, thanks to Chosen Hip Hop, thanks to D Graves, thanks to the inimitable Lauren Kelly for being in it. Hector Cruz is in the building. Shout out to Hector Cruz. I was just looking at your section in the book, bro. Hector Cruz, young scholar in the book. Shouts to Natalie Crew again, my day one. I love you like cook food, as they say. Andrew Wang, we're going to get into a talk about D1. I love D1. I have no problem with D1. But we give D1 a little bit more attention than I would like. But that's just me. That's just me personally. You said earlier offline, you were like, you don't be calling people out. I was like, I call people out all the time. Anyway, shouts to Andrew Wang, Yonkers, Jerome Enders, Yonkers, Lost City of Hip Hop. Thanks for people checking in. You saw in the beginning all the if you watch the show from the beginning, we have so many more like sponsors and people who are actually putting a few dollars a month at patreon.com. So it's so helpful. You see, I stepped up the game. I look sharper. Do I not look sharper? Look how good I look. Look how good we sound. Look how beautiful this is. Like I didn't even show you some things. We could do like, hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. We're going to come back Wednesday. I'm going to give you a pop-up show. This is secret. This only I'll know this. On some Wednesday night, we're going to talk about all the hip-hop news and views that I published in the last episode of the newsletter that I put out. It's called Hip Hop Save America, the newsletter. And look at all this stuff. Look at all this beautiful stuff I gave you. I gave you mad events. I gave you mad news. So instead of tying you up tonight, because we had a long interview with the great Lauren Kelly and Darren Graves, we are going to do that. Can you hear me in between? We could do that on Wednesday night. So we're going to come back this Wednesday, probably at 9 o'clock, probably the same time. I don't know exactly, but roundabout. I tested out some new things. Like technologically, this was crazy. There's a lot of stuff happening right here. I'm not using a service anymore, which I have to pay for. Now I'm doing it for free, but I had to build it all myself. I got a little guest thing where we invite our guests and we do live interviews. Just so you know, I'm working really hard for y'all. So if you could help me out, patreon.com/MannyFaces. That's the best stuff. There's some break-in stuff, the Olympic stuff. I talked about it a little bit because of what I talked about with my good friends Amani Kai Johnson and Mary Fogarty, who are really enveloped in that movement. And with the Olympics right around the corner and breaking, I might want to try to sneak in some real heavy insight from folks that really know what they're doing and talking about. So we're going to try to do that. Shouts to if you're in New Brunswick, New Jersey, we'll talk about this Wednesday because I'm going to give you the events and the news. But you mentioned hip hop and you mentioned breaking. There's a break-in watch party happening in New Brunswick, New Jersey with my people. So you definitely want to link up with them if you can, if you're in the New York, New Jersey area. We'll talk about it again on Wednesday. But real quick, I'll put on the screen Olympic breakdancing. Well, they call it breakdancing, but it's breaking. But you understand. Rod Digger, of course. Brick City official. Folks are coming out to Newark, New Jersey. My old stomping grounds wanted to come out to New Jersey and check that out, but I can't make it. But of course, check out Rod Digger. Check out my man. I'm going through the things. I'm trying to find. Where's the more? Well, our man Silent Night, who we all love on this show, will be out there as well. So shouts to Silent Night, who'll be rocking at the Olympic break-in watch party and game night, August 10th. I'm just shouting out my peoples. I work with them on this event, so I'm a little bit of a biased moment here. But we'll give you some more insight and more news and views and events, interdisciplinary events, conferences, stuff like that. Nas performing with the National Symphony Orchestra in DC, like at the Kennedy Center, stuff like that. Support the show, patreon.com/MannyFaces. I'm coming back. This is a twofer this week. I'm going to come back Wednesday night, 9 o'clock. So if you get the notification, please, right now, before we go, make sure you've liked this. Come on, you're on YouTube. You know the deal. Like it. Give me the thumbs up. Make sure you subscribed. Hit the bell for the notifications. You got to make sure you know, because now I'm coming back on Wednesday night instead of just Monday. It's going to be a special event. And we're going to talk about hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish. We're going to talk about some upcoming interdisciplinary events. And we're going to make it. SK in the build. I just shouted you out. Did you come back? Because I telepathically called your name. That's crazy. Did you see that? I did say twofer. Yeah, like I said, SK. I just talked about August 10th, the Hip Hop 50, New Brunswick, New Jersey, Rod Digger, Silent Night, bunch of other people performing. We're going to talk about it Wednesday night. Maybe SK will be there to co-host with me on Wednesday night. We're going to do a special Wednesday night, this Wednesday, 9 o'clock. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Like, you got to do the things that YouTube people want you to do. So, that all being said, we're out of here. Thank you, Dr. Lauren Kelly. Dr. Darren Graves, both of them, the loves of my hip-hop academic life, just out there doing great work. The Bloomsbury Handbook of Hip-Hop Pedagogy is expensive. It's about $150. We're working on a companion podcast to make some of that accessible. But the price should go down in time. So keep an eye out for that. Reach out if you need a section. I don't know. I'm sure that the authors will find a way to finagle it and make it work, for you. So yeah, that's what's up. Anyway, it's your man, Manny Faces. You can follow me. Look, I got banners. You can follow me on, I thought I had one for, I thought I had a banner for me to, on Instagram. No, whatever. Follow me on Instagram. You see the over here, Manny Faces Official on Instagram, on Twitter /X, on Manny Faces. And that's it. I switch a lot of things around. I should look sharper. I should look clearer. I should look cleaner. I put the beauty filter on, so you know what I mean? I look good. Oh, I ain't bald. I got hair, baby. Okay. And we'll be back next Monday. But before next Monday, we'll be back Wednesday with a surprise pop-up. So come through. Other than that, anything else? Shouts to my people in the chat. Of course, Andrew Wang, D. Graves, Natalie Crew, Silent Night, Cloud9 in the building. Prism Chosen Zulu was in the building earlier tonight. The best, I don't want to say the best hip-hop podcast, but certainly the most enlightening, the most informative, the most important hip-hop podcast, live stream show in the world, because we talk about ways that hip-hop can improve society, uplift humanity, and generally hip-hop for the greater good. That's what we do. To me and Manny Faces, peace and love. Hit me up. I'll be around. We'll be back Wednesday night with a special pop-up. Hip-hop news that isn't about dumb-ish.